I think a lot of people would agree that the grip is arguably the most important fundamental out there. If we get our hands in the correct position for our swings, we are going to see some great results. But if we get it in the wrong position, it's going to be very detrimental and ultimately it's going to be very hard to be consistent. Now, there are three main types of grips. We have weaker grips, stronger grips, and more sort of neutral grips. I'm going to run through firstly, which grip type do you need? And secondly, the secret key that a lot of people aren't paying attention to, which is going to drastically change how you hold that club, and it's going to make it so much easier to get into your desired position. Let's run through the three grip types that we tend to see. Now, the first one that we tend to see is just a standard neutral grip. What will we see for that? Well, when a player grips relatively neutral, we'll see about 2 to 2.5 knuckles on the left hand. We'll see the V pointing somewhere up to the right collarbone in that sort of zone right there, and the trail hand will fit on and the V will match it and again point more to the trail collarbone. Now, the reason why this is classed as a neutral grip is it's relatively, if I bring the hands back, is going to square the face up pretty consistently in a nice square position. Does this mean everybody should have a neutral grip? No, because we all have different wrist conditions in our swing. The next grip we're going to look at is a weaker grip. Now, what does a weaker grip look like? Well, we all see the left hand, for me as a right-handed golfer, my lead hand will be rotated a little bit more round to the left. The V created between my thumb and index finger will be pointing a little bit more towards my right eye, right ear, and I might just be able to see just about 2 knuckles, maybe 1.5 to 2 knuckles. So it's just rotated around a little bit more. Now, in this position, with the right hand, again, we'll tend to see that V match it as well. So the right hand's going to be a little bit more on top of the grip. And again, the reason why this is classed as a weaker grip is because with this hand orientation, we might expect to see the face return a little bit more open. And again, it doesn't always return open depending on your wrist conditions, which we'll go into in a second. Final grip type that we tend to see is a stronger grip. A great example of this is like a Zach Johnson. He has a stronger grip. A great example of a weaker grip is like a Colin Morikawa. With like a Zach Johnson with a stronger grip, we're going to see that hand be rotated around a lot more. So I can actually see now more like 3, maybe even 4 knuckles, depending on how strong your grip is. You can see that V is pointing a lot more to my trail shoulder. Potentially, if it's a super strong grip, it might be outside of my trail shoulder. And my right hand tends to match it in this direction as well. We're mainly focusing on the top hand in this position in terms of weak, neutral, or strong. Now, the reason why this is classed as a strong grip is it is more than likely going to return the face slightly closed. And again, you can use that to your advantage, depending on if you're trying to draw it or fade it. But what we are going to do now is talk about how these different grips relate to what wrist conditions you have in your swing. If you look at your golf swing and you see at the top of your backswing, you tend to get your left wrist into more of what we class as a bowed position, bowed or flex. So you can see it's sort of like a reverse C right there. It's very much bowing. The logo on the back of my left hand is pointing more to the sky. Well, when we do that, what's essentially happening is you can see as I bow my wrist right here, how it points the face more down to the ground. So when we tend to find players that bow the wrists like a Colin Morikawa, we will see them favor a little bit more of a weaker grip position. Reason being is the weak grip position promotes a slightly more open face, but then you bow the wrist and that's going to promote more of a closed face. Merge the two together, we have a neutral club face. So if you are somebody who looks at their swing and they see that left wrist bowed at the top of the backswing, then you are probably going to want to favor more of a weaker grip to neutral grip. If you are somebody who looks at their swing and again sees their wrist this time in more of what we class as a cupped position. A cupped position is where the logo of the glove points more sort of horizontal, and you can see it's sort of this cuppy shape right here. The wrist is what we class as extended in this position. As a result, you can see at the top of the backswing, that creates a situation where the toe of the club wants to point more down to the ground. So when we cup our wrist, if I do it in front of us now, you can see that wants to open up the club face. So we can sort of counteract this with a little bit of a stronger grip. So we might see maybe like a Patrick Reed sort of player. He might get a little bit more cupping to that left wrist, but he has a stronger grip. And again, those two will cancel each other out. So if you see you cup it at the top of the backswing, you might want to favor a stronger grip. Now, these aren't hard and fast rules. You know, you have other players that do different things, so these are guidelines. Now, the final one is if you just see at the top of your backswing a relatively flat left wrist. A relatively flat left wrist is a very neutral position. The club face is going to be in a neutral position, presuming you have a neutral grip. But it doesn't always mean that. You could have a slightly weaker grip that's going to promote the face slightly more open. You could have a slightly stronger grip that's going to promote the face to be slightly more closed with a flat left wrist. So again, these are just sort of guidelines. So now you understand what grip types are going to match certain wrist conditions. Now, what if you look and you say, all right, I see my left wrist bowed at the top, but I have a really strong grip and I'm struggling to make it weaker. Or it might be the other way. You have a lot of cup at the top of the wrist and then you look at your grip and it's very weak. And no matter how hard you try, you find it very hard to move that hand open into a stronger position. Well, the secret that I like players to focus on is not actually the hands. Yes, the hands will move into a different position when we change this one element. Now, this one element is what we class as internal and external rotation of your lead arm, so your top hand. For weaker grips, we will find that players who grip it quite weak will have their hand what we call externally rotated. So if I put my left thumb up in front of me and I point it to my left, that's me rotating my arm externally. You can now see my elbow pit is pointing towards the camera. If I grip the club in that position, it is going to want to promote, this is exaggerated of course, but a weaker grip type. What if I go the other way? If I go more into internal, so I rotate that thumb more to my right. Now watch, as I put it down, you can see my elbow pit is pointing more straight behind me. As I grip it, is going to want to promote a bit more of an excessively stronger grip. So you can look at this and say, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? Well, if you're the player who is gripping it very weak and you really want to strengthen it or just get that grip back to a neutral position, put your thumb up in front of you, rotate it inwards slightly and then bring it down. What you will notice is your lead elbow is now pointing more down towards the target and your elbow pit is pointing more back behind you. Now from this position, you'll find it a lot easier to get your hand into a better position. Now, what if you're the other way? Well, if you're the other way and you have a strong grip and you want to weaken it, feel like you just rotate that thumb a little bit more to your left, just ever so slightly. As you come down, you'll feel like your elbow pit is pointing more towards the camera or more in front of you towards the ball. You'll feel like your elbow is pointing a little bit more at a 45-degree angle, and you can now see that's going to promote me holding it in a much more of a neutral position. So one of the best factors we can focus on is where this left arm is pointing. So if we can manipulate this variable to our advantage to achieve the grip we want to. Now again, if we just want a neutral grip, pop your thumb up in front of you and bring it down just like so, keeping that thumb in front. That's going to show you what a good arm position in terms of being neutral, not too internal, not too external, is going to look like. So just having that thumb pointing in front of you, then you can grip it. You can see that's going to promote more of a neutral grip. Thumb to the right is going to promote more of a stronger grip. Thumb to the left is going to promote more of a weaker grip. So hopefully now you understand if your wrist conditions are matching your grip type. If they're not matching your grip type, then you can use this internal and external rotation of your lead arm to really help you. And it's a little bit of a cheat code. It really makes it so much easier to achieve that correct grip. Now, if you need some help figuring out what grip type you need, I do offer one-to-one lessons on the Skillist online golf coaching app. So be sure to check that out if you do require some one-to-one help. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Please stay tuned for more videos in the future. And if you have enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you back here soon.